On episode 7 of the Hybrid Podcast, we're going lucid with author Vince Field. Some of the topics we're going to be tackling are techniques on how to go lucid or have an out of body experience, as well as shadow beings and others that Vince has encountered along the way. Not to mention connecting with its higher consciousness and other angelic beings. I'm telling you, this is a podcast that you're not going to want to miss. But before we do, please do me a favor and go check out our sponsor over at schizomusic.com for all of your audio needs. You know our slogan over at Schizo Music: peace, love, and mics, as well as give us a like and subscribe over on YouTube, because without you guys liking, subscribing, sharing, and leaving your comments, none of these videos would be able to be possible. So I want to thank you in advance for doing so. And please tell everybody about the Hybrid Podcast. Let's start the show.
They lit up like they're luminescent. I never saw anything like it. They're around the little, they're coming by the capsule, and they look like little stars. A whole shower of them coming by. They swirl around the capsule and go in front of the window, and they're all brilliantly lighted. There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh.
Peace, love, and radiant light, you amazing, beautiful beings. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Hybrid Podcast. And I apologize for not being there for a while, but I had to get my act together and bring you the content that you guys deserve. So I'm not even going to prolong this speech or keep on rambling about all the new things that I got going on, although there are a lot of new things that I got going on. But what I will do is guarantee you that from now on, over at the Hybrid Podcast, we are not playing around, and we want guests. We want guests to come in and talk about their experiences. We need guests to come in and talk about their experiences, because without you guys, none of this is possible. So let's jump on over and start talking about our author that we have coming on in here today. Now, here's a little bit about Vincent that I think you guys would appreciate. And the name of his book that will be linked in the description below is Astral Projection and Lucid Dreaming: Spiritual Revelations and Out of Body Experiences in Higher Dimensions, a complete guide to exploring non physical reality. I'm telling you guys, this book will have you sitting on the edge of your seats because, truthfully, he's speaking a lot about his experiences and some of the techniques that you can use to go lucid within your dreams. So, here's a little bit about Vince Field. Vince was born and raised in Atlantic City, New Jersey. He began practicing astral projection and lucid dreaming at the age of 14, which opened him up to all kinds of paranormal activity and encounters. After 20 years of regularly having out of body experiences and exploring other dimensions of reality, he wrote and published a book detailing some of his most profound and unusual experiences, as well as teaching methods he uses to induce these altered states of consciousness. Vince is currently writing his next book, which will be released next year. So, can you guys do me a favor and help me in welcoming Vince Field? Vince, what's going on? Ladies and gentlemen, my homie Vince Field. What's going on, brother?
Hey, not much. All's good here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Super, super excited to jump in and start talking about the topic of astral projection and all that. But before we do get started, I just wanted to give like a brief, maybe introduction on the topic of astral projection for those that don't really know anything about the whole dream state reality, astral projection, out of body experiences type thing. If you want to take it away, that would be awesome.
Yeah, definitely. Astral projection is basically a type of out-of-body experience in which your consciousness leaves the physical body and it travels into higher dimensions of reality. So these dimensions are commonly called the astral dimensions, and basically reality consists of an entire spectrum of different dimensions that exist at different frequencies of energy. And similar to how there are different frequencies of light, and we can only perceive like a limited range of these frequencies, and the rest of the light spectrum, like infrared and X-ray and all those, they're invisible to us, but they still exist, right? So in the same way, there are all these higher dimensions of reality that are beyond our perception when we're grounded in the physical body. But when you have an out of body experience, your consciousness enters these higher dimensions. So, like I said, these dimensions exist in a spectrum. You can say like from low to high in terms of like uh, the frequency of the energy, like the rate of the vibrations. You can call it the vibrations of the energy. So the closer the non-physical dimension is to the physical dimension, the more similar it appears to the physical world. And I consider these the lower dimensions because they exist at the lower frequency on the spectrum of non-physical reality. And the farther the dimension is from the physical dimension, and the higher the frequency is compared to the physical dimension, the more reality starts to diverge from the physical world, and the more unique and unusual and abstract that dimension is. And so when you astral project, your consciousness transfers from the physical body into what's called an energy body, or you can call it the astral body or the spirit body. But it's basically just the non physical body that you occupy during astral projections. And so the energy body separates from the physical body, and you navigate the astral dimension from within this energy body in the same way that we navigate this physical dimension from within the physical body. So, the energy body it usually has like a transparent appearance and usually takes the form of the physical body. Um, but it does seem to be influenced by your subconscious mind and your expectations in terms of how it looks to you. Many times my energy body will have clothes on. Sometimes the same clothes that I'm wearing, like in the physical world at that time. And
Okay, that's
this is clearly
super.
a projection.
Not to cut you off, but that's super interesting that
Sure.
you say that because and I've actually had the pleasure, and I would say the pleasure because it was definitely a good experience every time I've had an out of body experience or a lucid dream state. Um, I just remember my astral body always being kind of the form of like a naked body kind of just floating in the universe. I mean, so this is the first time I've actually heard of the astral body actually having clothes on. Like I've lucid dreamed with clothes on for sure, but whenever I have like that out of body experience and I kind of leave my body, I've never really checked to see if I had clothes on. I've always kind of imagined myself to be clothesless. Is it because I always kind of imagine myself to be that way? Is that the reason why I don't have clothes on in these states?
Yeah, that could just be, your expectations, manifesting in your experience.
Understood, understood. All
Definitely.
right, continue for sure. I'm sorry to cut you off, but that was super interesting. It struck me as like,
Cool.
whoa, that's crazy. That's like the first time I've heard of that, so that's really cool. I just wanted to address that. All right, cool. Please continue.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, you're not actually wearing clothes, right? It's like a projection of your subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and your state of consciousness and like the strength of your focus and your lucidity and your awareness, it also affects your energy body, and it affects the entire experience. So if you project from your body and your level of consciousness is weak, then it's hard to focus. Your environment will usually appear blurry. Your movement will be sluggish. Your energy body, it'll feel dense and heavy. And in this state, sometimes your energy body can actually look like deformed. Like sometimes, like if I was in a state of low awareness and I looked at my energy body's hands, the fingers would be all misshapen and like contorted and just gross, really
You
weird.
you know what's
And
funny? To address that, what you're saying is one of the ways that I go lucid in my dream. Like I tell a lot of people, because my niece actually, shout out to my niece Skaida, when she talks to me about lucid dreaming, sometimes she has dreams, and she always goes, "I have dreams, but I never know that I'm dreaming while I'm in the dream." And one of the techniques that I've just heard it, and I used it in my own dreams, and they've worked, is when you look at your hands during a dream, if they look misshapen or they're kind of wavy and moving show, you could kind of tell yourself in the dream, oh wait a minute, I'm dreaming, which normally allows you to go lucid. And kind of like when I say I'm dreaming within a dream, that's when I try to like fly away, and 9 times out of 10 I end up just lifting off like Superman. And the thing that I find weird about those certain situations is, let's say I look at my hands, I realize I'm in a dream, I fly away, is it's never a complete scene. Like I can be in New York, let's say, and I fly away, and in an instant, as I'm elevating, I'm above an ocean. And I'm looking underneath the ocean, and there's big whales and all these sea creatures. And I'm like, how did I go from New York to blinking and being above this beautiful ocean? So can you like talk a little bit about how something like that would happen? And that's super cool that you talked about the hand thing so early on, because I was gonna actually, that was one of my questions for later on in the pod, is how do you go lucid? And that just happens to be one of the techniques that I've used.
yeah, definitely. That can be part of like a system. For lucid dreaming, you do these reality checks. So like throughout your day, you make it a habit to look at your hands and ask yourself if you're dreaming. And a lot of times that'll carry over into the dream state, and then you'll find yourself looking at your hands, and you kind of program yourself to ask, to question your reality when you see your hands. So you do that in the dream state too. You're dreaming, you see your hands, even if they look normal, that just triggers that question, and then you analyze your reality and you realize you're in a dream. So yeah, that's
Awesome. Awesome.
it's one of the
Awesome.
best
Awesome.
ways to go lucid.
Awesome, awesome. I just love that. That's the name of the episode too. Going Lucid with Vince Field. So it's super cool, man. Awesome, awesome. Already, we're only like 6 minutes into the pod, and I'm already like, whoa, so much information. All right, give me more. Give me more. Okay, so just a quick question: how did you get into like lucid dreaming? What made it like your passion? Why did you all of a sudden, as a child, you said you started as a child or in your early teens?
Yeah, when I was 14 years
Okay.
old.
Cool, cool, cool. Speak a little bit about that. Like, did it happen by accident and then you was like, whoa, this is cool, and you wanted to look more into it?
Well, what happened was I came across the idea, the concept of out of body experiences on the internet. I just happened to find this website that talked about it, and I thought it was so interesting. I really wanted to do it, and I found a method. And within a week of trying, I was able to leave my body. And really, my lucid dreaming practice was more of a byproduct of my astral projection practice. So, over the years, I basically did them side by side, but a lot of times my lucid dreaming would be almost spontaneous just because of the work I was doing with my consciousness during my astral projections. It just had an overall enhancing effect, which allowed me to get lucid in my dreams a lot easier.
That makes a lot of sense. So that first time that, okay, so you start noticing, excuse me, you start looking into like these out of body experiences. You're practicing, obviously you're doing the techniques that you're looking into, and you go lucid. What was your first time like? Like, do you still remember that first time going lucid or having your out of body experience?
Well, the thing with lucid dreaming is that I think a lot of people have lucid dreams even spontaneously, like every now and then. So you know, I remember having lucid dreams before even practicing astral projection. Now, it's the astral projections that stand out the most, in my memory. I mean, one, because I kept a detailed journal of all my experiences,
Smart.
particularly astral projections. Um, but
Okay,
yeah, I can't say I
so
recall my first lucid dream, but
okay,
my
all right.
first astral projection definitely.
All right, so let's do this. Let's talk about the differences between a lucid dream, an astral projection, and an out of body experience. Because I know the difference between an out of body experience, which is an OBE, and an NDE, which is a near death experience. I kind of get the difference between those two things. But between the out of body experience, lucid dreaming, and astral projection, can you kind of clarify for people that might not know, including myself, because I kind of tie in lucid dreaming with out of body in a way. It's kind of weird, but I kind of put those two together, and I might be 100% wrong. So please, like, if you can chop it up, the differences between those three subjects, that'd be amazing.
Well, I would say the term out of body experience is more of a blanket term that could, describe all of these astral projections, lucid dreams, their mental projections, remote viewing. I would say astral projection, you could say it's just an experience of being, separated from your body, whether, it's a lucid dream or, an astral projection. Um,
Okay.
so there are several differences, several like very noticeable differences between astral projections and lucid dreams, but there are also a lot of similarities. And what I discovered over the years of, experimenting with these different states is that they're actually kind of connected. Like they're connected through your consciousness. And okay, so one of the main differences is that a lucid dream takes place in a type of subconsciously created reality, whereas astral projections take place, like I said, in the astral dimension. And so the astral dimension is more of a consensus level of reality that exists beyond your own mind. So it's not just like a creation of your subconscious mind. It's out there, right? And anyone can access it. Whereas like the reality that you experience in your lucid dreams is typically more of a subjective, um, you know, type of reality created, you know, by some deep level of your mind.
That
So,
that that makes 100% sense. I totally understand. I totally get it now. So okay, quick question. Let's say you're having this astral projection. I've heard, and this is just what I've heard. I've never really seen it myself, but I heard that when you actually have an OBE or you decide to go like in this astral projection trip, there's a silver cord attached to your body. Have you heard of that? Is that like a true thing? And if that silver cord gets kind of cut off, that'd be like you can't come back into your body from that. Is that like the truth too? Is there any truth to anything I'm saying? Have you heard that before?
yeah, I've definitely heard that. And personally, I can't say I've really experienced that.
Okay.
Now, when they see the silver cord, it could be a projection of their expectations to see it. Um,
Makes sense.
see, the reality of our consciousness and these projections of consciousness is so much more complex than just being attached to the body with a cord.
Yeah, with
Because,
yeah,
because
for sure.
what actually happens is your consciousness, it kind of splits off. It like duplicates or replicates itself into various layers of reality, like simultaneously.
Mm.
And just the idea of a cord being like involved in that process, it just doesn't really make sense to me.
It definitely feels
Um,
like it's coming from like the brain. It's not like a thing that's outside of us keeping us tethered. Definitely feels like it's an expectation type of deal for sure.
right, yeah. So I wouldn't be worried about this cord breaking and you being stuck out of your body forever. I don't think that would ever happen.
For sure.
And over 20 years of having these experiences, and I've never seen a silver cord.
Okay,
So
okay. I'll give you another quick question that just popped into my brain out of nowhere. I remember having this dream one time where I'm like just swinging on this swing. I'm just, at a park just swinging on a swing. And I just remember falling in my dream. And when I woke up from that dream, I did the same kind of knee jerk reaction of falling in my dream. How is it that when you're in that dream state and you're kind of like just like hanging out on this swing and you fall in your dream and wake up instantly, your body has the same knee jerk reaction? Is it because consciousness is just all tied up to it, like tied into it?
yeah, I've had these experiences quite often, and in my opinion, your consciousness is becoming aware like a split second before it's kind of programmed to, and what you experience is your consciousness like re-entering your body. Generally, we don't experience that. We just experience already being in the body and we wake up. And I think that falling effect um, is experiencing the consciousness like reintegrate with the body.
I
And
totally agree with that. Like every time I have a dream when I'm falling, you never hit the floor. And I just remember telling my wife, you ever had a dream when you're like falling off a building and you can't fly or whatever, and you're about to hit the floor, but you always wake up before you hit the floor? Doesn't it feel like you're outside of your body? And that's kind of your brain's way of interpreting the fact that you're about to jump right back into your body again and wake up. Is that similar to what you're talking about right now?
yeah, for sure,
All right, that's
definitely.
what's up, man. All right, so let's get into the topic that I like to talk about a little bit. And you've had experiences from what I've heard. Have you ever had any experiences with multidimensional beings, your higher consciousness, maybe extraterrestrials from different dimensions or other planets? Have that ever occurred in these astral projections or in these lucid states?
Yeah, experiences like that comprise the majority of my book, actually.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I've had more experiences of that nature than I can talk about in one episode. But yeah,
Yes. All right.
shadow
So,
beings,
okay,
aliens,
okay. Let's
demons,
talk. Let's
ghosts,
talk. Let's talk. Let's talk. Okay.
angels.
All right. So let's go. Let's go down the list since you named a couple. Now, I've heard of shadow beings, and I've actually seen because being an experiencer myself, I've dealt with the paranormal as well as extraterrestrial beings. So I've seen shadow beings on the physical plane, but to be honest, I've never seen them in like an astral projection or any kind of lucid or out of body experiences. So can you talk about some of your experiences with these shadow people, and then we could go on to another, another experience that you might have had with another entity?
Yeah, well, I started seeing the shadow beings almost immediately. I think it was my second projection ever.
Wow.
And yeah, I didn't expect it because, back then I had done very little research and, it was like the early days of the internet, not a lot of information out there yet. It was back in the year 2000.
For
So
sure.
I kind of just went into it with, an open mind and not a lot of expectations. And so, you know, I float out of my body and there's this giant shadow being just right next to me. It was like 7 feet tall, just this huge dark silhouette just like facing me, and it freaked me out.
I can
And
only
and
imagine.
what
Yeah.
happens when you're out of your body and you experience something like this, and it causes this like intense fear, this like extreme emotional reaction, is that you automatically re-enter your body. So I saw this thing and I freaked out and I snapped right back into my body.
What?
And I projected from my body again, and the thing was still there. It was still there, standing there. And
What?
I I called it quits for the day. I was like, all right, I'm good.
You was like,
you
this
know,
is
I
enough.
don't right. I was new to it, so it
For
was it was pretty
sure, for
freaky.
sure. What do you think that shadow
Uh,
being was? Like, what was it trying to do? Was it trying to scare you, or was it just interested in you? Like, what do you think that experience was all about?
uh, you know, It's hard to say. Um, there's a theory that shadow beings are, for the most part, a projection of your fears. Um, but the thing is, I've had many experiences with them, and I wasn't afraid. Like I said, I didn't have many expectations, but I didn't expect to see anything like that. And the fact that I was experiencing these entities without having the expectation to, it tells me that there is some validity to their existence outside of your own
For sure.
subconscious projections.
For sure. For
Um,
sure.
it seems like, so many experiences, encounters with these shadow people, it seems they exist or they operate for the most part in like the lowest dimensions.
Yeah.
And the thing is, like, um, the lower dimensions are most commonly projected to in the beginning of your practice. With more development and experience, you begin to access the higher dimensions, but usually in the beginning, you stay around the lower dimensions, which are usually just slightly higher than the physical dimension. And then that's where I would encounter these entities, and
Gotcha.
sometimes they would just be standing there, like lurking over me, just looking at me. But
Gotcha.
other times they would actually come at me, and it seemed like they would try to grab me. And in the beginning, I would kind of like abort
Yeah.
mission,
For
and I would
sure.
re-enter my body.
Yeah.
But after a while, um, I took another approach, and I started to ignore them, and I found that I was able to actually uh, shift into a higher dimension. Um, I guess a dimension that they don't have access to. Like I said, like they're in the lowest dimension. So if you project into a higher dimension, you basically completely bypass them and where they are. And
For
so
sure.
that began
100%.
happening, and yeah, eventually
Just
I
give it
stopped
love.
encountering them. Right.
Yeah, but during the beginning, when you encounter these beings, the last thing you want to do is hug them or be like, with all the peace and love in my heart, please just go. Like, that's the last thing you think about. All right, so so let's go into the other side of the spectrum, right? Because we heard about the shadow beings. So now let's talk about maybe an angelic being or something that you would consider to be super positive or like just radiant love. Have you had those experiences as well?
Yeah, yeah. I've had many more of those experiences than like the negative type of experiences.
Very cool.
And
Very
if it
cool.
was all these scary negative experiences, uh, I probably wouldn't be practicing this. But that's the minority of the experiences. Most of them are just so incredible and profound. So yeah,
Awesome.
I would say my most amazing experiences have been in higher dimensions and with my higher self, like experiences of like integrating or merging with my higher self.
Wow.
And
That sounds
those
amazing.
experiences, yeah, there's like a level of these experiences that are like beyond words, but to put it into words, it's like this remembering who you truly are, um, as like this eternal spiritual being.
Wow.
And the thing with the higher self is the higher self is such an enormously like powerful and vast um, like entity of consciousness. And how it works is that who we are as like these individuals in these bodies, and this consciousness that we perceive ourselves to have like right now, well, we're just like a small aspect of an actually much larger entity of consciousness. And this larger entity, which is commonly called the higher self, actually consists of many, many different incarnations, different individuals, different personalities, and we're kind of like probes, right? So the higher self incarnates at all these different times and places throughout history, and um, the objective is like to maximize the potential for learning and experience and growth, in this system of reality, in this like physical world, right? And so like reincarnation in a linear sense kind of misses the mark, because it's not like you die and then you're born into a new body and then that body dies and then you're born into a new body like that, kind of like
Yeah,
the Buddhist idea of reincarnation. It's more
gotcha.
like a simultaneous process, and you um like in this level where we exist right now, you are, you know, practically speaking, like a separate individual from the other incarnations in your higher self. But when you get up to the level of your higher self, it's all one consciousness. And so with during these experiences, you experience yourself as this like highest level of consciousness, and you experience all these other like individuals like that you're connected with, you're one with. And you know, typically during these experiences there's like intense states of bliss. Like sometimes like you feel like you're just going to explode and like
I've
your identity is just um, being disintegrated, and
I
it's
can
sometimes it's so
definitely
powerful. It's
trust me. I can definitely talk a little bit about that. Don't mean to cut you off again, but wow, does that resonate with me? I remember I was having a mental connection with an extraterrestrial being. I don't know what planet this being was from, but I was in a deep meditation in my recording studio, and out of nowhere, I just get this flash from the right side of my head to the left side of my head inside my mind's eye, and there's this extraterrestrial being just standing there, had this big long elongated head. It was like almost bluish in skin. It had like a white garb on, and it said, "This is how much I love you." And then when I got that telepathic connection, I just remember feeling like the only way I can explain it, and I've said it to everybody, I've said it a couple of times in some podcast or whatever. It's like every cell in my body was being hugged at the same time. And I can tell you right now, I love my kids. I've been married to my wife for 19 years. You know, I love my wife unconditionally. But this love that I felt, I've never in my life felt any kind of love towards me or towards somebody else. So when you talk about this overwhelming love that feels like you're about to burst from the inside out, like I totally understand what you're saying, and I don't know if there's some listeners out there that has also experienced that as well. But when I, it's just a different kind of love. So I just wanted to elaborate that. Totally agree with how crazy that love is. So please expand a little bit more on that story, because I want to hear more about like connecting with your higher consciousness. Did you get any like information when you connected? Like I know you said you was omnipresent and you kind of felt like you was the whole universe as a whole and all higher dimensions is one. But did you get like a sense of information that you brought back with you from that higher consciousness?
well, what I took away from that experience in terms of, you know, information,
Mm-hmm.
uh, was the fact that this is actually who I am, and you know who I think I am as this person here on Earth is you know, maybe not an illusion, but just like such a small aspect of my true self. And you know, just that realization alone is really like
It's mind blowing.
transformative. Yeah, it's really like life changing. Like, you know, because it kind of changes your whole perspective of life and you know and
It
everything
makes you
else.
better. It definitely makes you better. It addresses that what you think is what you create. Like a lot of people forget that the state of mind that we're in is the literal state of mind that our reality is projected. So when you have these other states of consciousness like we have had, you know, me with extraterrestrial beings and you in these other states of consciousness with these other multidimensional beings as well, you tend to go, wait a minute, this whole 3D reality that we're living here is only on this 3D reality. Like I look at time way different now because I was told by another experiencer that when you think about time on this planet, there's only time is only addressed on this plane. You might be in another plane right now, living a whole nother life on another planet. And on that planet, it could be simultaneously because time only exists here. So I could be in a whole completely different world as a whole different being, sharing the same kind of almost consciousness and soul or whatever, but I only feel it as, oh, that was a past life, or it was a future prediction. It can never be simultaneously because we have that linear time here. So have you experienced that whole transformative feeling of like when you're in these higher states of consciousness, there is no time, there is no like you blink and you're wherever you want to be kind of deal?
Uh, yeah, for sure. And actually, I wanted to address another thing you just said, which was, the idea of having, you know, kind of like a simultaneous existence, like on another planet or something like this.
Sure.
Because I've had experiences which have revealed to me that this is the case, and I've gotten specific information on this actually.
Oh,
Um,
let's talk
I've
about it. I'll shut up and let you expand, my brother.
Sure, sure. I've had many experiences with many different groups of entities that appear to be aliens. Sometimes they look more like the Greys. Maybe they have a different color skin. Um, and honestly, a lot of these experiences with these alien type entities have been more on the negative side,
Okay.
especially this one particular group that honestly they stalked me for years, really.
Wow.
Um, Particularly like during my astral projections, like I would leave my body and they'd be there waiting for me.
Just
Sometimes they'd
waiting for
actually
you to
just
jump out.
rip
Wow.
me. They would pull me right out of my body without me, you
Wow.
know, asking or requesting. So I've had other experiences with other groups of beings that the term alien, I'm using the word alien to describe an entity that looks like, what our culture accepts as like an alien, the small, skinny body, big head, big eyes,
Big, yeah.
some kind of variation of that.
Traditional grays. I
Um,
got you. I got you.
sure. So I had this one experience, and this entity kind of like manifested in front of me, and it was an alien, and where it looked like an alien, and this telepathic link opened between us, and I received the knowledge that I have a close bond, a close connection, a close relationship with this entity that was before me. But not only that, I am a member of this alien race, and I'm living a concurrent life in another system of reality as this type of entity with this being that was before me.
Mm.
And I received this knowledge, like it was like a download of knowledge, and not just knowledge but like experience and memories. And I was I realized like this is true. And it might seem hard to believe, you
No,
know
to
not
some, yeah,
having.
not to me.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, what I mean is like if you haven't had these experiences, it could seem really hard to believe.
For sure, for
But what
sure.
happens when you're in particularly higher states of consciousness and higher dimensions, you have a type of connection that's almost like you're connected with like the source of truth. And so sometimes you'll receive this information, this knowledge, or memories, and there's no question that they're true and they're real. Whereas like here in this world, like we need facts, we need evidence, we need like, you know, uh, we need data, but it's a little different out there. So I was given this information, this understanding of who I was in this other life as this other type of entity. And then this being came up to me and it wrapped its arms around me and it hugged me, it squeezed me, and then this energy just like exploded from within me, this energy of like of bliss, and it was such an incredibly strong, like profound experience. And that totally supports what you just said about having other lives in
Yeah,
different planets, different
yeah.
dimensions. In my experience, that's definitely true.
Wow, man, that sounds freaking amazing, and definitely kind of it really resonates with me in a way. I remember I used to think of this like whenever I explained it to people as a past life experience, but now I'm starting to think the more I'm talking to you that this might be simultaneously like this. That there's a lot of evidence that's starting to support this, especially speaking to other experiencers. I had a dream where I was like this fish-like being, and I had scales all over my body. My fingers were webbed. I had like these kind of like this gill like kind of ears going around this way. I resembled a lot of what they call a nomo being if you look those beings up. And I just remember being on like this wooden boat on this really huge ocean like planet, and it had like purple jelly like water that was electrified at times. When you looked at it, it looked like it was energized. And then when I looked up at the horizon, there was like this really big either other planetary system or maybe this really big moon, and then another moon behind it a little bit in the distance. And then I kind of snapped out of reality. To this day, I used to think it was a past life like memory I was having of like me on another planet, Sirius B or something, some water planet at a water being. But the more I speak to other experiences and speaking to you now, I'm starting to realize maybe I'm still on that planet at this current moment right now, and that's just the only slither of information I was able to bring back with me on this planet. So yeah, that's kind of crazy, man. That we went there. All right, so we talked about the angelic beings and the super like feeling omnipresent and all that stuff. We spoke about the shadow people, but I've heard you mention something about demons as well. Tell me about a scary moment with a demon. How was that? Like, how did you end up bumping into a demon?
Okay, for sure. Well, the term demon might be a little loaded.
For sure,
So what I would consider a demon would be um, a malicious spirit, a malicious entity.
a trickster
Okay,
spirit, as
so
they say, for sure.
sure, sure.
Yeah. I've heard them
Yeah,
called
an
many things
entity,
like a dark spirit, dark energy, demon, trickster, spirit. It's like so many names for so many things.
sure. Yeah, over the years, every now and then, um, I would encounter one, and sometimes they would be a little on the aggressive side. I've been grabbed by them, and when they grab me, I feel tangible pain
Wow.
in my energy body, not in my physical body, in my energy body. And then a lot of times, like I said, that reflex kicks in because when this happens, you experience like, this heightened state of fear, and
Mm,
usually all I would automatically re-enter my body, and I would feel the lingering pain in my physical body
that
at the exact
sucks,
place
man.
where I was grabbed by the entity.
Have you ever woken up
Um,
or like awakened with scars? Like, well, not scars, but like like red marks and that fade away over time or something? Because that's happened to me before too. I've been in a room and like
mhm.
felt like a claw mark on my back, and it would appear and then kind of fade out. That's happened to me before.
You know, I had one period I had an experience like this, but it wasn't me who had the marks. It was my wife.
Oh wow, that sucks.
And so at this time, we had just moved into a condominium, and this condominium, this apartment where we moved to, well, the previous owner had just died. She was an old lady, and uh, you know, I was doing a lot of astral projection, a lot of meditating, and this one night, I woke up and I entered a meditative state, and suddenly I shifted beyond my normal consciousness. I entered this altered state, and suddenly I see this ghost, this nasty old like rotted flesh looking lady like hovering over me. So I'm laying down on my back, and this entity, this ghost, is basically like parallel to me, like floating over me, looking straight into my eyes. And it was such a freaky thing
Yeah, I can
because
only
I think
imagine,
this
man.
this is my first time remembering like an experience with uh, a ghost that it looked like something from like a horror movie, you know?
Yeah, like The Conjuring or
And
something, it sounds like. For sure.
yeah, for real.
Yeah, it's intense, man.
And so and I realized that this ghost, this old ghost lady, realized that I was aware of her, and the moment she realized this, her mouth opened and she let out this like booming shriek.
What?
And it wasn't like a physical sound, but in this state, we were kind of like on another level,
Yeah.
and it was so loud and like just horrifying.
Wow.
And right away I didn't make the connection with the lady who had died, the previous owner of that condo. But we had experiences around that time, and I started to make the connections. My wife would wake up, we would wake up in the morning, and she would have like red hand marks as if someone had been like squeezing the daylights out of her arms. And
Wow.
it wasn't me, and it wasn't her. She wasn't doing that to herself.
Of course.
And there was no explanation for it. But then I started, that experience with a ghost, and then some other things that would happen too. We started to get the idea that maybe there was some kind of haunting taking place. Like she wasn't happy that we kind of invaded her space, and she was
For
kind
sure.
of trying to freak us out.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've dealt with people what with apparitions that didn't want me around. I mean, I've never had like full blown kind of books flying off the shelves or, but I had experiences where super intense. I remember there was this one time where I'm standing in my kitchen. And I don't know if this was like a semi possession or if this was just an entity that was strong enough to hold me down. But I just remember I was standing in my kitchen, I was all alone, and then out of nowhere, I'm just get this feeling of like a egg getting cracked over my head and then pouring over my body. I go a little numb, kind of like my whole body goes numb, and then this cloud of smoke kind of encompasses my whole view. Now there's nothing around me. There's only me and this kind of cloud inside. I can't see forward. I'm not in my kitchen no more. I'm in my kitchen, obviously, but visually, I'm just in a cloud of smoke. And then I hear in my body, and I'm talking about in the most menacing sound that I can possibly hear. The vibration of the voice, still to this day, I remember it as vibrating every bone in my body. It said, "Give yourself to me, and you will have it all." It was almost like a demon or the devil or somebody was trying to proposition me to give up my soul or my essence so I could have material things on this planet. Now, when you talk about this menacing kind of like apparition that was this lady or whatever that didn't want you around, did you feel that kind of like energy coming back at you, like the more fear you gave it, the more energy it gave you back, type deal?
Well, I definitely felt like hostility
Yeah.
coming from it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
uh,
crazy.
the intentions were not good.
All right, so check it out. We spoke a little bit about your experience, but one thing that we haven't had a chance to expand on is what if there's people out there that are curious about actually visiting these dimension or these altered states of consciousness? I'm going to tell you a technique that I use to go out of body, and you tell me if it's, a technique that you would recommend to other people, or if there's any ways that I could tweak my technique. Excuse me, if there's any way that I can tweak my technique to actually, do it a little bit better. So the way I tend to go out of body is right before I go to sleep, I kind of start tricking my mind into thinking that my body's asleep. So I go through this phase of like getting really comfortable, really relaxed, and then I don't move. I almost trying to trick my brain into thinking it's already in like that kind of like, oh, he's not there, he's sleeping. So once I start getting into that really calm state, I'm not moving, I'm just breathing, kind of like like I would do when I was asleep, I start noticing that there's like itches that start happening all over my body. Now, when I feel like an itch on my, let's say I feel an itch on my toe, I take it as a signal of my brain trying to get me to go down and scratch that itch to see if I'm still up before it puts me in that state of like putting my body into, I guess, what do they call, like sleep paralysis or whatever. So I tend to fight off the feeling of the scratch. A lot of people tend to say, if you get a feeling of scratching your nose or whatever, do it, because and then you'll be obsessing about it in your brain. But I tend to, if you kind of ignore those triggers and look at them as ways as your body trying to get you to wake up to see if you're up, then you can fight it. Once I fight that, I tend to go into the next stage, which is sleep paralysis. This used to scare me a lot. The minute I get to the point where I cannot move my arms anymore or I can't move my legs, which is usually a little bit after the itching phase, I used to get scared. I'm not gonna lie to you, and then it'll snap me out of it, and then I'll start moving. But I just remember after a while of going to that state, I got used to it, and at that point, when I'm in sleep paralysis and I know I kind of can't move, I know I've already tricked my brain into thinking I'm asleep. So that's when I start imagining my hand going up. I can't physically do it because I'm already in sleep paralysis. So I'm just imagining looking at my hand, imagining looking at my hand come up, just imagining. And then eventually, what ends up happening is either through my eyes being closed, I can see the ceiling, which happens a lot. My eyes will be completely shut, but I'm looking at the ceiling, which makes no sense, and which means I've either popped out of my body or something is happening, or I will literally see my hand, and then at that point, I'll just sit up and then turn around and just see myself there, and then I'm just like, oh, I went lucid. I went out of body. I could do whatever I want. So, is that a technique that you would recommend to people, or is there something I can do to possibly tweak that up to go out of body a lot easier? Because it is a hard technique. It's not the easiest way to do it, and I've only done it like 3 or 4 times doing it that way, but that's the only way I know that works.
Yeah, that definitely works, and I've done that a lot. Um,
Okay.
I used methods like that mainly in the beginning.
Okay.
Um, that was one of the first methods that I ever used, and it's a method you use at night before bed. And I would say the best way to um, improve that method and make it more effective is to do that in the very early morning, because in the early morning, your body and mind are basically already in the ideal state to leave your body, whereas at night, uh, it's a lot more difficult. I mean, sometimes you can't get your body to fall asleep right away, and also a lot of times, at night your mind is also pretty exhausted, so it's not always easy uh, to
To fight the sleep.
remain aware and conscious
Yeah, to fight the sleep. Yeah,
for
for sure, for sure.
yeah, for the projection.
Makes
So
sense.
what I started doing is I would wake up after 5 or 6 hours of sleep. Um, I wouldn't I wouldn't do it after a full night of sleep. It's better to wake up a little earlier than normal, because it is easier to get your body to fall back asleep. Whereas if you have 8 or 9 hours of sleep, it might be a little more difficult. So let's say after 5 or 6 hours of sleep, that's kind of the sweet spot in my experience and in the experience of others. Um, and wake up and just go right into that process. And I think it'll be a lot easier because you know it'll be easy for your body to fall back asleep. Sometimes that'll happen after a few seconds, and your mind has already gotten a decent amount of rest, so it's easier for your mind to remain awake during the process at that time. So I would say that would be something that could really increase the effectiveness of your practice.
That sounds
And
amazing, and I know what I'm going to do
yeah,
at 3:30 every morning from now on. What was you
for
about to
sure.
say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I would still keep practicing at night. That can never hurt.
Mhm.
Um, but also like incorporating the early morning practice is
Makes a lot more sense,
is
man.
pretty crucial.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot more sense when you explain it the way you explain it. It's almost like an aha moment for me. I know you can see me in my face, like yeah, like I'm getting it. Like I'm starting to understand because I would like I was telling my niece once again. I'm gonna mention her. I love you, Kaida, but I'm gonna put your business on Front Street. When we talk about this whole dream state thing, we start to say it is a lot harder to do it at night now that I think about it because we tend to just go straight to sleep. We have an exhausting day. We're trying to fight to sleep. It doesn't really work out that way. But you know what? If you just put an alarm clock, let's say for like you go to sleep at 10, you put the alarm clock for like 3:30 or 3:33 or whatever, if you're into numerology or whatever, and you kind of stay up for like 5 minutes and then just pump yourself right back into it. I can totally see that being a lot more effective. So that tip was insane. That tip was like everything. Quick question. I've also heard hypnotizing yourself. Have you heard of the hypnagogic state? Have you heard of that term?
Um,
Maybe
yeah,
I'm saying it wrong.
basically, well, what that is basically the state where your body is asleep and your mind is awake,
Beautiful.
and
So
it's common to experience.
it's like that stage
Um,
right in the middle, like right before you're about to go to sleep, but you're still up. I've heard that if you do a mantra,
mhm.
I will remember my dreams. I need to remember my dreams. I have to remember my dreams. As you're in that state, it's almost a trigger to your subconscious to, as it's falling asleep, to remember that it has no choice than to remember that memory. Would that be a cool way to kind of also not only having a dream journal next to your book, because I've heard also that in the beginning kind of minutes of when you wake up is the best part to like start writing it down because you start losing it within like 10-15 minutes of being up or whatever. So would that be a good thing to do, like hypnotize yourself during that little hypnagogic state if you can, and keep a dream journal next to your book, so that I'm next to your bed, so as soon as you wake up, boom, you could write these dreams that you're having.
Yeah, definitely. What I consider that is programming the subconscious mind, and this was one of the first techniques I ever used. The first method I used was similar to what you said. You do it at night before
Mm-hmm.
bed, and then I found another method that you do in the early morning, and it involves a type of meditation where you repeat affirmations, but also you do a third eye meditation. So you
Mm-hmm.
focus on your third eye, and the third eye is said to be like the link to the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea is that you kind of envision the affirmations being absorbed into your third eye and into your subconscious mind, and it seems to be really, really effective, really powerful. And so I was doing that for my astral projection. So I would say, my mind is awake, my body's asleep, like I'm consciously leaving my body, things like that. But
Gotcha.
I've also done it for lucid dreams, and you can do it for anything really. So for sure, definitely.
Talk to your
And
subconscious. So talk to your
yeah,
subconscious, people. You hear that? Talk to your subconscious. And what was you going to say?
uh, the part about the dream journal,
Yeah.
it's a really good idea, and it really helps becoming aware of your dreams and becoming lucid in your dreams too. The times where I was really dedicated with my dream journal, I would wake up and have 6 or 7 dreams recorded in my journal.
Wow.
What I would do is I'd wake up with the dream fresh in my memory, and I would take some notes. I would jot down like keywords. I wouldn't write like sentences, but
Of course, yeah.
in the morning I would be able to piece together the keywords, and that would kind of bring back the memories of what happened during each dream.
Wow.
And yeah, the more you do it, the more dreams you start to remember, and the more you become lucid in your dreams. And it's definitely a really helpful
Okay.
practice.
Now, question, because I know we didn't touch on the book that you already written, which I know if you guys listen to the intro in the beginning, you got the whole bio there. I'm gonna have a link in the bio as well to purchase that book. But I heard to the grapevine that you might be working on a second book now. So for everybody that hasn't already picked up this man's book, please go pick it up, but also stay on the lookout for another piece of work, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. I should be releasing the next book next year, sometime next year. There's no exact date.
Okay.
But what's happened over the past few years, and really what's happened progressively throughout my practice is kind of like um, an acceleration of the experiences and my abilities and the nature of what I've been learning and and so in the recent years, especially like with the pandemic, like we're stuck at home, we got all this extra time. Well, it was just so much easier to really get heavy to my practice. And over the years, it became so easy. I didn't really need to focus on on my practice. A lot of times it would just happen spontaneously. I'd wake up and in a few seconds I'd be out of my body. But
Wow.
having all this extra time over the past few years to really like hone in and kind of take things to the next level. In this next book, uh, you'll see that things have truly been, stepped up to the next level. And I don't want to really give anything away,
No,
but
please don't.
it'll
Please
be
don't. Just
something to look
leave
out
us on
for.
the cliff. Leave us on the cliff because I need to go pick that up. I mean, it's just amazing how many experiences you were able to pack into the first one. So I can only imagine what the second one's going to be like. So, yo, kudos to you, man. Much love to you for writing these books and really putting your experiences out there because I know it tends to be hard to be able to speak about these things because it's not really, the topic of conversation for everybody. But luckily in these coming years to come, it looks like a lot of people are starting to become a lot more aware of what's going on out there, and they're starting to really resonate with the stuff that you're bringing to the table, the stuff that we're bringing to the table as a whole to our collective consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So much love and respect to you for everything you do. And also, are you planning on maybe in the future having a couple of videos online, if you don't have already, on how to like really teach these techniques to other? Because I could really see myself subscribing to something to that, or maybe signing up to a Patreon page where we could get like one-on-one videos with you, like really teaching us how to get into that state. Also, one last question that we didn't get to dive into before you answer that. Um, are you able to meet other people in these states of consciousness? Like, let's say me and my niece Gaida, we really love talking about this, and we really want to get into like meeting each other in these altered states of in these dream states, in these actual projections. Is it possible for us to meet each other in these realms?
Yeah, definitely. I've met my friends and family many times, and see, the
That's
thing
cool.
is, um, everyone involved in the encounter kind of needs to be dialed into the experience because what happens is even if you have a friend or family member who has never had like a conscious out of body experience before, well, everyone actually has these experiences. They just don't remember them, and a lot of times they're just like not consciously in control of the experience. But we have experiences on so many different levels of reality that we don't realize. But you start to realize that once you start to consciously enter these states. And so a lot of times you will meet friends, family, other people, and they won't have the recollection of it. They won't be conscious for the experience. But I have met over the years other like out of body explorers, and I've had
That's cool.
like really meaningful conversations with them, and I've received information from them.
Oh, that's
So
so cool.
yeah, I the tricky part is having everyone involved really zoned in and conscious to remember the experience.
For sure. Man, let me tell you, man, it's been a real treat to be able to talk to you. Now, I know we didn't cover too much about your book, but once again, if you heard the intro in the beginning, there's a lot of information there about the book, and we're also going to have a link in the description So that way you guys could go pick that up and support my man Vince over here because he's doing great work. And also stay on the lookout for his next book. And is there anything else that you might want to promote and plug before we end up, shutting the stream down here and calling it quits?
Yeah, I think that's good. I'm just happy to share my experiences and pique people's interest in exploring these other states of consciousness. It's really transformational stuff. And I would say, check out my book and you know, think about starting your own practice, meditation, lucid dreaming, astral projection. These things can really change your life.
For sure, for sure. And you know what? I'm gonna be lucid dreaming every morning at 3:30, and I got a feeling that I will be meeting you on one of these realms one day. So for real, keep an eye out for me out there. I'm gonna be floating around looking for things to do. I might swing by the
For
pyramids
sure,
of
man.
Egypt or something. You know what I mean? But for sure, man, it was a treat talking to you, man. I definitely would love to do a part two. If there's anybody that wants to see that part two, please, talk in the comments in the video, like the video, share it around. If you want to see the part two, let me know because I would love to do it for you guys. And maybe we can have, somebody else join us on the part two. Maybe we can have a whole kind of discussion about lucid dream and astral projection. I mean, I think the stuff that we've been able to talk about, the stuff that I've learned, the experiences you've had, and some of the stuff that people can find in your book can really help them with just everyday things and just experience as a whole and becoming closer to oneness itself. So I really do appreciate your time, man. I appreciate everything you do for the collective consciousness. And for everybody out there listening, this is Vince Field. Go pick up his book. He got a really long title, so I forget it, but it is hold on, is I got it right here. Astral projection and lucid dreaming, spiritual revelations and out of body experiences, and higher dimensions, a complete guide to exploring non physical reality. Go pick up that book now. You're crazy if you don't. Vince, it was a pleasure sharing your energy with you today, bro. It was amazing.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it was a pretty awesome conversation. And we'll definitely do a part two. I still have a lot of experiences to share, a lot of methods and tips and tricks to give you guys, and yeah, a lot more to get into. So
This was
let's
just a
do that.
taste, bro. This is just a taste. We're just laying the foundation. Maybe the next talk that we have, we could just focus on techniques and really dialing in how to go lucid, or maybe we could just focus on more of the stories that you want to talk and some of the information that you got from these higher realms. So either way is going to be an amazing conversation, and I can't wait to have it. So for sure, let's make it happen. And once again, bro, have a great, amazing experience for the rest of your night. I know you're like 3 hours away from me. Excuse me, time zone wise, right? It's like 8,
Right,
11
right.
over here. It's probably like, I don't know what time it is over there right now. What, 11? 11,
Yeah, it's a little
11?
past 11 here.
All right. So there you go, man. I appreciate your time, man. And I'll let you go now, man. Peace, bro.
All right, thanks, brother. Talk to you soon.
Later. Now, I don't know if you guys understand what just happened, but I think what we just witnessed in this podcast was just amazing. I mean, when I tell you that I've learned so much about lucid dreaming in the past hour, about astral projection in the past hour, that would be an understatement. I want to thank author Vince Field once again for bringing his knowledge to the table with all the peace, love, and light in his heart. That was amazing, man. For real, I appreciate you, and we will be doing that part too. Also, I want to give a shout out to everybody out there that's listening. Because once again, without you, this podcast wouldn't be possible. So I want y'all to show yourselves some love because it's well deserved. And with all that being said, I want you to go and pick up Vince's book. The link is going to be in the description. Pick it up in audio format, paperback, however you want to get it. Inhale that book, especially if you're into lucid dreaming, astral projection, OBEs, I'm telling you, this is the book to get. So, peace, love, and radiant light, you amazing beings. And I hope that you continue to have an amazing experience. I'm your host, Skits the P.L.K., and I'll be back from now on every week. Talk to you soon. This podcast was brought to you by schizomusic.com. Schizomusic.com, your number one source for all your audio needs. Do you need podcast editing? Schizomusic.com. Do you need intros and outros for your podcast? Schizomusic.com. Do you need your book interpreted in audio form? Schizomusic.com. Do you need mixing and mastering for your music? Schizomusic.com.